And now, broadcasting from our nation's capital in Washington, D.C., it's Free Association. Here's the Fort Smith Fireball, your champion of chicken, and the Sultan of Segways, Mark Lane.
Mr. Lane goes to Washington. Welcome to Free Association, folks. I'm Mark Lane. On today's show, of course, we've got the true alternative music and your requests at 343-7913. But I've also got a special guest today, Dr. John Grayzel from the University of Maryland, to talk about some of the issues going on in the Middle East, notably Egypt. That'll be coming up later on in today's show. So let's get the music started with Amos Lee with Windows Are Rolled Down right here on 91.3 FM. Mount Desolation. That's perfect band title for the snowpocalypse that's going on back in Oklahoma. I hope you guys don't send it our way out here in D.C. So that was their song Departure. And then before that, Two Door Cinema Club was Something Good Can Work. And then before that, Commerce with The Same Time. And I'm Mark Lane. You're listening to Free Association. If there's anybody in the studio, you can give them a call at 343-7913, and they'll gladly put your song in the rotation here. I don't know if there's anybody back at the station. Am I alone? Am I broadcasting to no one? Am I just talking to myself? Well, we'll find out. Let's go ahead and take a look at the headlines here from around the world here. And one notable place in the world that everybody's keeping their attention focused on is Egypt. And as it looks right now, Mubarak is going to step down as president of Egypt. He's been president there for an unprecedented 30 years. And so he's going to step down. But the riots, the protests, they still continue. Speaking of presidential, over here in our country, Mitt Romney's still undecided on the presidential 2012 race. This is from the Associated Press. You know, he says that he hasn't decided whether or not he's going to run in 2012, but he's committed to seeing that there's somebody in the race who understands the economy. You know, okay. So then he goes on to say, the Associated Press article goes on to say that he credited President Barack Obama with trying to make things better, but faulted what he called, quote, the most anti-investment, anti-jobs, anti-growth administration we've seen in a long time, unquote. Well, if that's giving somebody credit, I would hate to see Romney take away credit from somebody. My gosh. Then let's see. Did you hear about the new guy the ambassador to China, John Huntsman, that thinks he resigned his post and he's a Republican potential for the presidency here? Yeah, great. What has this guy ever done? If I were to imagine what he would do besides be the ambassador to China, I would imagine he'd sell ketchup. Who is this guy, John Huntsman? All right, what other headlines do we have going on here? Oh, did you hear? I'm sure we've all heard about Pitcher, Oklahoma. It's about to be, demolished after the tornado went through there 3 years ago. So we have that to look for. And then a funny story here about the spam text that killed a Russian suicide bomber. The Black Widow, that's the name of the suicide bomber. She was going to use her cell phone as a detonation device. And, the next phone call or, buzz on the cell phone was going to blow up a bomb somewhere, that she was going to walk into. Meanwhile, she gets a spam text message, and it blows her up prematurely. So score one for the spammers. They actually did something besides be their antisocial selves. All right, well, coming up on Free Association, keep it right here because we'll be talking with Dr. John Grayzel from the University of Maryland about the issues in Egypt and Tunisia. So you want to keep it right here. And you also want to keep it right here because after the break, we have Houses with Reds on 91.3. The Naked and the Famous with Punching in a Dream right here on Free Association. Before that, Voodoo Glow Skulls with Fire in the Dance Hall. And before that, Y Oak with Civilian, which is what I, Mark Lane, is a civilian. And you're listening to Free Association on 91.3 FM. So I was at the National Press Club Monday night watching the Cab Report, which was it was like one of those public affairs shows that you see on C-SPAN or public television every now and then. And I'm not saying that to denigrate it at all. I thought it was a good report. The moderator, I forget his first name, but his last name's Cab. He was a host of Meet the Press for a number of years. He hosted the show there, and he interviewed a couple of guys who were big-time editors at the New York Times and asked them the direction of the paper. And I thought he was very fair in his questions, and it was very informative. So there were a couple of notable things that I saw there. Like, I saw a woman about 44 that should know better wearing a Packers sweatshirt in the middle of... what are you wearing a sweatshirt for at something like that? You know, I thought the guys in jeans were bad enough. And then we used to have somebody in a sweatshirt. And but the big one was whenever the kids, the college kids, you know, my peer group, they would get up to the microphones, ask questions afterwards. They had 20-minute Q&A. So they would get up to ask questions at the microphone, and they would always try to outdo each other with it, something intelligent, like they were going to get a job on the spot based upon the questioning that they asked. And they would always have long-winded questions like they were giving a speech. It'd be something like this, So how do you feel about the equitability of the Times sustaining its commitment to having all the news that's fit to print in an age when we can find all the news without print, such as the internet and radio and television? Is there some way, they try to come up with all kinds of witty answers instead of witty questions instead of just asking a question like I would have done if my question wouldn't have been answered already, which was, this is how they should have asked the question. How do you think convergence in the media has helped or hurt the Times? That's it. They should have asked a question like that. Instead, they get up there and they try to outdo each other because they were new-timers to the microphone, That's Delta Spirit with St. Francis right here on Free Association. I'm Mark Lane, and if we've got any Kings of Leon fans out there, you're going to be pretty disappointed with the news I have to report because their drummer, Nathan Followill, had surgery for a torn right bicep and labrum, and it's going to have to postpone some of their tours in South Africa and Australia. So, hey, don't get on to me for saying I'm not, this isn't a regional story. Why'd you even tell that? Because we broadcast over the interwebs at rsu.edu, so that's why I had to mention it for our Australian and South American listeners. Don't tell me how to run my own radio show. Okay, so anyway, it turns out that Kings of Leon, they're still doing great. They're still up for 2 Grammys, and of course the Grammy Awards are on February 13th. All right, with that being said, let's get back to the true alternative music with some Kings of Leon, with Pyro on 91.3.